all together.
Hello, and welcome to Covert Castaway. I'm Holly.
Je suis Stéphane.
Join us as we share what we learn and how we're making the transition to liveaboard cruising. So today we're going to talk about communications on a boat.
Between you and me?
No. Technical communication. Again, this falls in the category of us taking another look at the options that we're purchasing to put the boat together. And you know what I just realized today is, maybe it'll be past by the time this podcast gets posted, but hole number 3 is in the factory right now. So we go in next. It's
In the mold.
pretty exciting.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So, we're going to talk about communications today, and just want to remind you all, please share our podcast with someone who is like-minded and also has sailing interests. And hey, if you get a free moment, we'd love you to give us a rating on Apple or Google or wherever it is you listen. If you have complaints or concerns about the content, we would love those via email at sailingowen@gmail.com, because we're always looking for ways to make it better. But if you like the podcast, we'd love to have you comment on that and click some stars for us, if possible.
Mm-hmm. It will help some other people to find the podcast.
Yeah, cool. All right, so we're going to talk about communication systems. We learned a lot last time at what is practical and what works, and then what just doesn't work at all very much anymore. So we're going to talk about the PepWave router, give you kind of a lowdown on the local SIM and Wi-Fi situation, talk about data SIMs and some Wi-Fi boxes, phone service, and different pros and cons of different international phone service plans with data from the U.S., Iridium Go, Iridium Sat Phone, and Starlink. So make sure you stick around for that as our last topic. Spoiler alert, they don't have really anything for boats, so everybody's improvising. And if you have been following any of the Facebook forums on that, you'll kind of know where everybody's at, which seems to be retrofitting and hacking a dome cover. That's where people are going right now. But we can talk more about, our thinking on it and what we're planning for ourselves in that department. So should we get started?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So let's talk about the PepWave router first. You want to dive in?
Yeah. So just at a high level, this PepWave router, it's a little box with an antenna, and then you put a SIM card or even 2 SIM cards in it. And I'm sure there are many different options. And what it does, it connects to a cell tower, and it creates a Wi-Fi network. It just brings the internet to your boat. And so then you can connect multiple devices, computer, phones, and so forth. So it's pretty handy. We used it quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. And so we go into every country, and as soon as we get there, mission number 1 is to find the SIM card, and then figure out how to get PepWave to work, which is an adventure in its own. There's some things to do. It's not like an iPhone. You don't just turn it on. You have to do some things.
Yeah.
And what was that country? It was Italy, I think. We were really struggling to get it to work. But after that, we got it down pat.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about making sure you get a data SIM card. Or if you get a regular SIM card because they don't have any, then to make sure they remove the password.
Right, that's what it was.
So you can use it into your PepWave router.
So the PepWave router options right now are a 3G, 4G, that's one option, and then a 5G, which is a separate option. But I don't know why they don't call it 3G, 4G, 5G, because the 5G covers all the Gs. And so that is one of the considerations. And which one did we get?
We rolled it out.
Yeah.
So the 5G was about $1,000 extra. The thinking behind it is, as we want a solution for the next couple of years, and the future in our mind, in everybody's mind, is Starlink. Obviously, nobody knows yet what would be the true cruiser option and the cost and this and that. But that's definitely the direction. So the thinking behind it was, do we need to invest into a more expensive box to try to get 5G, knowing that we're going to be, the way we're going to be in the Caribbean, which I doubt they have good 5G coverage.
Well, yeah, you just don't know, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty. And is 4G that bad for what we want to do?
Well, look at your experience. Like, you were doing Zoom calls from the boat at anchor.
It's fine.
And that was like 3G or 4G, and that worked in the Med. That worked everywhere. So I think more important is the coverage. So the thinking was, well, we don't need the 5G. And we're hoping that in the next 2 years there is a satisfactory solution, and we're okay to deal with what we have in the Caribbean, but we want to find like a more permanent solution before we leave for the Pacific.
And what was the situation with the 5G? Did it have an extra antenna or something? No,
even the one we get, the 3G, 4G, I believe we get the 5G antenna anyway.
Oh, okay.
So I think the antenna, I don't believe it was a separate one. And by default, you get that one.
And yeah, so that's what we're going with. We're going to save the extra $1,000 for something else.
It's hard to find
probably SIM cards.
Little things.
We're like, woo, we saved $1,000. Yay. The other thing we decided not to get the Fusion system. And we saved ourselves a couple $1,000s on that too. Because we figured we could just get a Bluetooth speaker, a couple speakers, and honestly, that's all we do with it anyway. So
yeah, that's really the only.
I know it's like ooh, another $2,000. Yeah, little victories. We'll take them. So,
and then just assuming like, okay, Starlink is the future. Then, from what I understand, once it's still useful to have the PepWave router, because once you get your Starlink, you can connect it to the PepWave router.
Oh, okay.
And now you have your little Wi-Fi on the boat where you can connect multiple devices, and so the source becomes not a cell SIM card, but it becomes Starlink.
Yeah. So let's talk about SIM cards. So you mentioned it before. There were a couple times so it was Italy, and I think it was Greece. Italy was we didn't know that. And Greece was you're out. So in Italy, we got a SIM card for the PepWave, not knowing that it was a voice and data card. And we asked the person if we could just use the same card. And they said yes, but they actually have to physically deactivate the password or something. So we ended up having to bring the card back in and having them do that for us. So in Greece, they were out of data-only SIM cards, and we had to get a wireless Wi-Fi hub, like a little portable hub. It wasn't that much. It was, I don't know, like
20, 30?
Yeah, dollars or something on top of the SIM card. And so we just, you buy the card, but you also have the card for the boat. So you have this other thing. And because they only sold it as a package, they sold the SIM card inside the hub. So that's how that worked.
And that's good if you're going to do some travel inland. When we went in Turkey and for like a month traveling, so we brought that with us, and then we could connect both of our phones to this local SIM card. So that was useful for that. But the disadvantage, if you cannot pop it into your router, then you don't have. I mean, you can have Wi-Fi through the little device, but it's
no. But we put it in the router. The thing is, we had to pay extra because we had to buy the hub. That's what happened. Yeah. So the little thing to note is, if you're somewhere, just make sure if all they have is the data and phone card, they have to turn the phone off, the voice off manually through some kind of password thing. Okay. We've kind of shared before in terms of local Wi-Fi and SIM, at least in the Med, it was amazing. We never had any issues with bad Wi-Fi. It was great, and it was relatively cheap. Some places were more than others, but all in all, I mean, sometimes it was just ridiculously cheap. Montenegro was just nuts. It was so cheap.
Like 15 euros, if I recall, for like 500 gigabytes.
Yeah, I mean, it was insane.
And the year before, it was the same price for like a terabyte of data. So it's really like you're streaming movies, you're back on YouTube.
You're back on land.
Which is not especially good.
Yeah, it's not good for sure, because then when we got to these other places, we had to make sure that everything else was turned off and the automatic updates and everything like that. So So yeah, that the SIM card situation, at least in the Med, was good. We went to Guadeloupe this past summer, stayed at Airbnb.
Summer? That was
When
March.
was it? Oh, geez, it was like
I mean, over there it feels like
it was
summer.
the beginning of the summer, I guess. Yeah, it's been a while. We were in an Airbnb, and I can tell you for a fact the Wi-Fi was terrible. And we even went. I even went to try to get a Wi-Fi hub or a local SIM card to put in my phone, just for business stuff I was doing. And there was no. I mean, he just basically said it's all bad. Like that. That's kind of you get what you get. So I think there's just some places that are going to be like that. We've heard the Caribbean's a little bit like that and a lot more challenging. So. But in Europe it was fine. In other places it's fine. It's just a touch and go on some of the islands.
Yeah. And in Italy, I was looking about 20 euros for 15 gigabytes. So depending if you're staying there for a period of time, then you just buy multiple SIM cards. And then once you run out of data, then you pop a new one. And that's kind of the approach we were taking.
Mm-hmm. The other option is what is being called, it's offered by Transitel. It's called a data SIM, and it's international prepaid data SIM cards. And they're offered at a bunch of different countries. It says 190 destinations. Mm-hmm. It's 1 gig for $40. But it's basically
in the US.
In the US.
When I looked in the US, I wanted to, but
just to compare. But yeah, for the
12 to 20 per gigabyte, like
in other countries, yeah,
it varies per country, but that was kind of like the average,
yeah,
which is quite expensive for a gigabyte. I mean,
well, the thing that's weird about it is, so they ship them to you. And there's one per country. So you buy them and they ship them to you. So that assumes you have somewhere to receive mail, which is a different problem. So say you go, okay, I'll buy the SIM card and you can ship them all to me and you leave the US with them. I guess that's okay. And then what wasn't clear is if you can add data onto it, or do you have to buy another card? So that wasn't clear anywhere on their website. But when we took the communications class at Outremer, this is one of the things that they recommended, especially if you're staying in a certain area.
Well, it might be convenient. Like that's kind of you pay for convenience because you arrive anywhere and you're going.
You have the cards with you.
Well, yeah, and then you're going to connect, so you don't have to be shopping around to try to find a data SIM card. But for the convenience, you're paying a premium price. So I think for cruisers,
it's 1 gig to get you by. For $20. It's that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is probably makes more sense. We'll talk about it, but through your phone plan, you'll pay less. I mean, Google Fi was like $10 per gigabyte. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, so you could do that through Google Fi and be fine. Yeah. But Google Fi has its issues too, which we'll get to. The next option is a international pocket Wi-Fi. There's one called Wi-Fi Box. WYFIBOX. And this is similar to what Stefan was sort of talking about before. It's sort of a eSIM and a portable hub, and it's valid anywhere. $10 a day, unlimited. It's like $10 a day. That's crazy, but it's completely unlimited data, and you only pay for what you use. So you turn it on, you pay $10. You never turn it on or turn it on once a month. That's all you pay. And it's totally available when you enter the country. They have 157 countries and it's all 4G and it's active the second you turn it on. So to me, that's like super convenient if you need something in a pinch. So for instance, let's give an example. So the example would be, for whatever reason, you need better Wi-Fi than your phone, or your phone doesn't have data plan for whatever reason somewhere because Google Fi has problems. And you have it when you enter a country, maybe on a Sunday, and you can buy a day or two until you get to the place. So that didn't seem so bad.
No, I mean, and if you obviously that if you get that, like you said, that's one use case. Another use case is that you may in the months, let's say, like, you want to connect at times. Like today is like the data day. You're going to download a bunch of stuff. You're going to upload stuff.
Assuming you have limitations in some In the local SIM card, you mean?
No, with this system. I'm saying the idea is not to use it every day because then it becomes expensive. Like it'll be like $300 for the month.
No, it's crazy.
But if you don't need like data every day and you just want to connect once in a while, so that's another use case. You're like, okay, I'll connect once a week or, twice a week. Okay, that's the convenience of having something that works everywhere.
If you have limitations on the local SIM card that you put in your Pep.
Yeah, or if you don't want to deal with the local SIM cards, you're moving from island to island. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good one for sure. So I don't know. That seems like a pretty good potential backup just to have.
Yeah, I think it's worth looking into it.
To me, it's easier than having all of these separate country SIM cards sent and having them dangling in a baggie somewhere. And
the price, I think, as long as you're not doing this every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it's a better, I think, than the previous option.
So let's talk about international phone plans. I was really fired up about Google Fi before we left. You had Google Fi already, right?
Yeah, I've had Google Fi for many years because I used to buy Google phones and it's well integrated. There was some benefits.
All right.
But I think over the years, I don't know, in the US, I feel like the coverage is worse.
Same. I don't think the coverage is all that great, at least when I'm here. It kind of goes in and out. But it's affordable, right? The two of us pay we pay $125 a month, and so when we're here, it's fine. Mostly, it's unlimited when we're here in the U.S.
Affordable for the U.S.
Yeah, affordable for the U.S. for sure.
We see in Europe, it's a much better
pennies.
Deal. Yeah.
But internationally, the phone service, the voice is 20 cents a minute. And, mostly I would use WhatsApp or, other phone ways. Everybody's on Zoom anyway. And then the data, though, was, what was it, $10 a gig?
Yeah, $10 gig pretty much everywhere.
Yeah. And then they kind of throttle you. So it's fine if you turn it on, the Wi-Fi on, if you're out and about, if you just want faster coverage. Through your phone for directions and stuff like that. But it's the worst part about it is after 90 days or so, they notify you that they're going to cut you off.
They put you in jail.
You're in Wi-Fi jail.
In Google Fi
jail. So if you buy in the U.S., then that means 30 days, and then you don't have any service anymore.
30 days?
No. Or sorry, 90 days.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's exactly 90 days, but. Yeah, during the summer, you came back to the U.S.
I came back to the U.S. and it sort of reset itself because I never got a notice until we were getting ready to leave. But by that time, we had been there longer. So I was put in jail. So that meant for the rest of until I come back in the U.S., I didn't have basically. You had nothing.
Yeah, and you're still paying for it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So unless you're going back home regularly.
If you come back and forth, it's fine. But,
if you're out and about for months, then that's not.
And I was like, oh, do I just take your phone with me? And it knows it's in the U.S. and then I bring it back or something?
When I came back in the U.S., right away, I was able to connect. But so that was a pain.
So that was a pain. So we've been looking into two different things. The first one is U.S. Mobile, which is you've never heard of in your life. It's actually a smaller company. And it's like Google Fi, but it doesn't cut you off internationally. So it's not a really well-known brand. It's not like one of the big.
But they're using other major networks,
right?
Kind of like Google Fi.
Yeah.
But they offer many variations of plans.
Different plans,
if you're a data user or you're calling a lot, whatever, you can pretty much customize and find what the best deal is for your plan. So that's one of the major advantage.
Yeah, so it's $45 a line, and with that plan, you get 10 gigs of data, so international data. So that just gives you an idea of what it is, and they have a lot of different. They have pretty broad coverage. We have friends that use it for the same purpose. U.S. citizens, they're out of the country and living on a boat, and so far they really like it. So that's one option we're looking at. The other one is T-Mobile. So with T-Mobile, again, it's all kinds of different plans. Just for the sake of comparison, you can get 15 gigs of high-speed data, and that's $50 a line, or 5 gigs, for 10 days at $35. So they have what they call international passes. So you pay for the pass, and the pass determines how much data you want and how many days you want it. So it could be really expensive. It could just sort of be a good backup plan. But T-Mobile offers other things. Their coverage is really good, and they seem to be working with a lot of different vendors for like perks.
Yeah.
So, for instance, on flights, you get free Wi-Fi with a lot of the major airlines, and some other things. So that is definitely worth looking at. Have you heard anything else about T-Mobile other than what we just looked at online?
No, I think I would say that's a standard. Like for if you're going to be using your phone plan internationally, that's definitely the one you want to look at first and see if you can find a better deal with another vendor. But that's their own network. They offer, like you say, all these perks. They have many different packages that you can choose from. That's definitely a good solution. Yeah.
There's other options. They're not really considerations for us, just in terms of phone service. Like if you go in a country, you can, I think, go into any one of these stores and get a local burner phone. If you want to get a serious phone, in many countries they won't let you because you're not a resident.
Yeah, and every time you're going to get like a SIM card where you have like calls, you get a phone number. You'll need to have your passport.
Yeah, all this stuff.
So it gets complicated quickly.
Yeah. So anyway, just wanted to mention that. We're not going to do that, but wanted to mention that. Okay, so let's talk about satellite. So that would be Iridium and Starlink. So, of course, we're going to go ahead and get the Iridium Go again. We had that on our last boat. We didn't use it too much in the Med, but we used it when we did the 6-day passage.
Yeah, we used it the first season because we had a couple passages where it was useful to get update on the weather. So that's, the biggest limitation, obviously, of this solution is the 5 kilobyte limitation. So you're not
checking Instagram or anything. Yeah, no. There's none of that.
So that's just email, text, and weather download.
Grib files, yeah.
Yeah. So you can have also calls, and you have some minutes for that, depending on which card you get. But if you're away from land,
you want to have that.
That's basically like a requirement if you're cruising.
Yeah, for safety. Yeah. And it was good, as I recall. Didn't it have some kind of locator or something as well? So
you can buy cards, like SIM cards from different vendors. If you buy it from PredictWin, they have this little perk that comes with it where it has the tracking device and they give you a URL. And so you can share that with your friends and family.
Yeah.
So they see you where you're at and as you're moving. If you buy a SIM card from another vendor, you won't have that option. But you might have a better deal.
You might be doing something else.
So it depends what's more important to you. If you want to find, based on your usage, the best deals, and then you might want to talk to some local vendors where you get your Iridium Go.
So the thing that's kind of inconvenient is you pay for the SIM card, and then when you run out, you have to insert.
Well, not run out. You pay for the SIM card, but if you don't want, that's the convenience of it, is if you don't want to use it anymore and don't want to pay the monthly fee, then you deactivate it. And
right.
so that's
the service.
Yeah. So you're going to cross an ocean and you're like, okay, I want to activate it and I want to deactivate, once I'm done. And you're like, okay, so that's great. The one thing you have to know is once you deactivate the card, that card is dead. So
right.
You need to have a spare card or spare cards. So if you want to use it again,
you have to reactivate the new card every time. Yeah.
And the way they ship them, at least until last year, it was, I think, maybe from the UK, from Australia. There were like 2 warehouses, it seemed. And we tried to get some like in Croatia. And I don't know, it ended up costing a lot of money.
But then they said that, so the shipping was more than the cards, but then they threw in extra cards. So it was something like this.
And then you have to deal with like customs and stuff.
Yeah.
So the cards are like $10 per card. So that would be reasonable. But then once you add the
customs and shipping
and stuff, it's best
to just get them before you leave.
Yeah, get a few of them.
Exactly. So there is a monthly service, but you wouldn't necessarily use it unless you're going on a passage, really, or you're doing a lot of passages. So, you know, that's kind of the thing. Yeah. And then they were talking about, you know, you have your Iridium Go, then you need to leave the boat. You need to jump in your life raft. And they were sort of talking about this whole thing where you grab your Iridium Go and then you have to shift the Iridium Go card and put it in your sat phone. And I was like, okay, nobody's doing that. There's no way that's going to happen in that situation.
Well, you can connect your phone to the Iridium Go and then use it this way.
Assuming your phone isn't wet. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you have a way to recharge the battery. So there is an internal battery. So I mean, it's definitely an option. I mean, assuming you're in the life raft for like, not too long. And
it's just hard for me to imagine that situation. Oh, let's change the SIM card. Like, no, you're not going to be thinking that in the life raft.
Or like through connect your phone, but you're already connected in advance. So I think it's a valid solution, but it's not the bulletproof solution if you're like in terrible bad weather
conditions.
So,
and so, which brings us to the Iridium satellite phone standalone option. And the cost on these was expensive. I mean, I think they were like €1,000 to get the phone. And then you pay for the service, right? So you'd only pay for the service when you used it. But the thing is you can rent them. So many marine communication people and the people that we spoke to at Uchmer Week who were talking about this, they offer the service. They'll give you the phone, and then when you get on the other side, you ship it back.
Yeah, they give you like a case, and while they ship the case, or you bring it with you,
right?
And then you put it back in in this protected case,
and you mail it. Yeah. And I actually think that's a really good option. You've got to believe that the shipping costs wouldn't, reach $1,000, and you would always have a good, well-tested, charged kind of piece of equipment.
I mean, I haven't looked at recent prices, but what I recall was 14 years ago when I rented one to go to Hawaii. I don't know. In my mind, it was expensive but reasonable, and it's been a long time. So I would think that's that's you have to compare this. It's like if you're doing a passage and you end up in the life raft, and you want to have,
you definitely want to have one.
Those type of devices so you can communicate and.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we should try when we do the Atlantic crossing, try the rental option and see. What we think. And if we think we want to buy one along the way, maybe we can. But anyway, that's what we're going to do first. Okay, so let's talk about Starlink. So I'm as excited as anybody else about Starlink. Obviously, we're talking about the RV option. Nobody's talking about the marine option because it's ridiculous.
Well, it's more for like cruise ships and the marine industry, like commercial ships.
Anyway, so it's $599 for equipment, $135 a month, which would be awesome. But the issue is their current policies around, if you're in one place, people are doing it and having a lot of good experience. If you're moving around or doing a circumnavigation, it means every time you change countries, you have to buy new equipment.
Country or continent?
Continent, sorry. Yeah. You have to buy new equipment. So, it's $599 every time you make a big move. So I don't know. And the thing I feel is we're going to be in the Med before we do a crossing. Our next crossing. And so we're going to be in the Med and then get to the Caribbean in December, January timeframe. And so we'll have good coverage anywhere we are in the Med. for the first few months. And then by that time, then we can reassess. But if you go on the Starlink website where it talks about the Starlink coverage, the coverage in the Caribbean isn't that great. And there's like no coverage right now in the Bahamas. So for instance, like they have coverage in the Dominican Republic, Guadeloupe, Martinique, Puerto Rico, but not any of the other islands right now. They're saying that it's Q4 2022, but
which is right now.
It's right now, so this should be updated. And so, that's problematic. They don't have it in Curacao or Aruba, which would be kind of where we may start to be moving towards, during hurricane season. And they don't have it, in Belize. They randomly have it in Jamaica, but not, anywhere else unless you're actually in Florida. So I don't know, we'll have to wait and see when they're going to come out with some of these other services in the Caribbean. But then on the other side, Mexico looks pretty good. We aren't going to Hawaii, but then there's no coverage right now in the French Polynesia in these islands. And they have no known, service date for some of these. In Q1 2023, they're saying Fiji, but it's not right there.
Yeah,
so, and then it's good when you get, over to Australia, New Zealand. So I don't know, the coverage situation is mixed.
Yeah, but the trend is good. It's moving fast, it seems, or at least the roadmap. I'm
going to keep my fingers crossed and hope Twitter doesn't distract him because, I'd like to see this kind of get squared away. I mean, even the Canary Islands, it's not even in the Canary Islands. It says 2023. So
yeah, which is next year. So for us, that's kind of the idea. It's okay, everything seems to be moving fairly fast. 2023 is next year. We don't need it in the Med. We'll cross to the Caribbean. We'll deal with 3G, 4G. And our main goal is really to assess the situation probably by 2025 or 6, whenever we happen to head towards the Pacific. So by that time, ideally, we would want to have a good starting option. So I think for the next couple of years, we're okay with what we need, what we have.
And basically, the next couple of years, then once we get to the Caribbean and the Bahamas, we just have to be okay with it being not good Wi-Fi. So
which I think the biggest thing is for if you have Zoom calls, the rest it's also a blessing.
No, it definitely is.
Good Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Because, you're not on YouTube, you're not watching movies.
This whole point of being disconnected is great.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is I have this little, kind of side hustle, and it's nice to be able to do that as long as I can. But I mean, we never kind of planned for me to do it anyway. It was just sort of an accident. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see how that goes.
So that's one danger. Once you're back home.
Yeah.
With all the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
At will. So,
but there are people who need to work on the boat, right? And there are also people that have kids who want to
grandkids and stuff. Yeah.
Or doing the school, homeschooling on the boat.
Homeschooling, yes.
So that's a situation.
And in the future, if you get coverage across the ocean, as you have more and more satellites, that's also useful because right now, as we talked about with Iridium Go, you have 5 kilobyte, bandwidth.
The world gets really small,
But if suddenly you can download satellite files or stuff like this, then you can suddenly have more weather information at hand.
Oh, you mean the weather information? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, the way we're going to do the crossings will hire
a weather service.
Yeah, weather service. But it's also good, if you can have this data. As
for sure. Along. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at on the communication, and just looking for a new cell phone plan in general. Sticking with PepWave. We talked about Starlink. I really do think this international Wi-Fi box would be good to have just as a backup for certain use cases. So are you getting excited about dealing with all this stuff again? You've been away from it for a little while?
Yeah, I mean, on one way, we're familiar with those devices, so nothing new. One thing we didn't mention is the PepWave router. So you have the option to put a Wi-Fi antenna up the mast.
Was that like the Bad Boy or something like that? Whatever it was called.
It was, then they
changed
went
the name.
It's the different company, whatever, and Wi-Fi antenna, but you have that option. We opted not to take it. The reason for that is so far, I mean, first, all these Wi-Fi networks that you could access.
You mean the freebie networks from...
Now they all have passwords. Some of them are limited in time. So the Marina Wi-Fi is usually pretty bad.
Marina Wi-Fi is bad.
So you end up relying on cell coverage anyway.
Well, meaning it's slow. Like, even with the PepWave, we could get the Marina Wi-Fi in the Marina, obviously, or even at Anchor. But it was just super slow.
It's slow, or it stops and stop and go. And so I think for us, we're thinking like it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So we're not buying the Wi-Fi antenna. We didn't have one at previous boat, and granted we're in the Med, but that we never needed it. Yeah. And again, the thinking is there is a midterm solution that is coming. And so once that's available, then it replaces. I mean, again, I said the Wi-Fi router, you can keep it because you can plug your Starlink and get Wi-Fi on the boat. But all these options to try to get, internet will be replaced eventually by Starlink. So in the interim, we don't need it. And we'll save another couple €100, which is not much in the grand scheme of things. But at least it's one thing less to worry about.
Yeah. Did we save money on anything else? It was just the Fusion and...
Unfortunately, I think.
No. Anyway, so we're super excited to continue to share with you the options we picked and why we picked them. An upcoming podcast we're going to do is on Oscar, which is a super cool thermal camera with AI and machine learning, and we're going to talk all about that. So keep your eyes peeled for an upcoming episode on that.
And then, we'll start again to update blogs on the sailingawen.com. So we'll try to maybe go into more details or provide some links. So check that out.
Yeah, and like I said, send us an email at sailingawen@gmail.com. And fair winds for now.
Como?
Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, like, or share with another covert castaway. Fair winds for now.